Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Biz-Network. I'm your host, Ken Nichols. My guest today is John Hewitt, who is a serial entrepreneur developing business franchises. I hope you'll enjoy the conversation. Hi, John. How are you?
Incredible. Thank you.
Good. Well, I've read your profile, and you've got a lot to offer in the world of franchising. So why don't we get started with a little bit of going over your role in bringing all these franchises to life?
That'll be awesome. Can I start from the beginning?
Sure. Well, I guess it depends how long we want to talk, but start anywhere you want to.
I can cover my 56 years in about 3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm right with you.
Big
We're
picture.
in that same age group, it looks like to me.
Good. I started when I was at the University of Buffalo. I took an H&R Block course, loved it. 10 years later, I was running 250 H&R Block locations. And my dad bought one of the first Apple computers by mail. And he decided we should computerize taxes. So he finally convinced me to quit H&R Block. And in 1981, I built the first tax software for an Apple computer. No one wanted it, way ahead of its time. Got blessed and found a company in Virginia Beach called Mel Jackson Tax Service. The biggest blessing was the weather here is a lot nicer than Buffalo. And in August of 82, I moved my family here to run Mel Jackson. And been here ever since. So over the years, H&R Block had 9,000 offices, and we had 6. I set out to have 9,001 to add 8,995 offices. Well, we never quite got that many, but we changed the name to Jackson Hewitt. We merged the computer and the tax company, went public, and 15 years later sold it for $483 million. It became, 6 years later, it became a billion-dollar company with 6,000 offices. So first big entrepreneurial effort after building the software turned into a billion-dollar company. And starting over, I had a non-compete that covered virtually the entire United States for 3 years. But it didn't cover Canada because Jackson Hewitt's never gone to Canada. And having done tax returns in Buffalo, I knew Canadian tax law, done Canadian tax returns, and decided to open Liberty Tax in Canada. So we opened Liberty Tax in Canada. Within 3 years, became a top 100 retail chain. So now I built one of the top 100 retail chains in the U.S. and then in Canada. When my non-compete ended in 2000 in the U.S., came back, and now I had to compete with my own name, my own software, my own people, my own system. And yet we grew faster than Jackson Hewitt and H&R Block combined. Liberty Tax opened 4,000 offices in 12 years. Public company worth 500. My second public company worth about 500 million. Sold my stock, and again had a non-compete. So I branched out into other industries, and now we have Loyalty Brands, which has 10 different brands. And we have 3 different focuses. One is tax and accounting and advisory. And secondly is construction, led by our roofing and siding. And then thirdly, our most exciting is pets, everything pets, led by our mobile dog grooming, Zoom and Grooming. And I'm excited to say that, the pet industry is about the fastest growing industry out there. We're number 1 in all mobile pet grooming. And in March Entrepreneur, we were named of the 100 franchisors in all pet franchises, we're the fastest growing.
So you have a company headquarters that you have staff, and how do you come up with this? How do you get into the pet franchising business?
Remember when I sold Liberty Tax, I had a non-compete. And unlike when I sold Jackson Hewitt, I couldn't go to Canada because Liberty Tax was in Canada. So I couldn't get in the tax business in North America. And so we're looking, what is the fastest growing industries in the country? And two came to mind. One is pets and the other was elder care. And we looked at both. And the best company that we were able to obtain was Zoom and Grooming. And so
you purchased that company and now you've grown it.
Right. They'd been in business 10 years and had 2 franchisees and 4 vans. We
And how
already
many
have,
are there now?
we're be 4 years old on August 18th, and we have about 250 vans.
And
And we're growing.
how do you grow that? How do you grow a business like that? What's the secret sauce to taking something and pushing it out and growing something that someone else couldn't grow or didn't grow?
Now, Ken, I'm the only person that's built 10 or two of the top 100 retail chains in the country. I mean, Ray Kroc built McDonald's, and Colonel Sanders built Kentucky Fried Chicken, and
All right.
so and so. But I'm the only guy that's done it twice. So the I've been asked. I do a weekly webinar, and I was asked for like the umpteenth time, what's the most important thing in growing? And I realized that, and I had answered that question hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of times. And I'll tell you what's most important. But I realized that there's not just one thing, right? And I came up, I love top 10 lists. I take it from the 10 commandments. So in every company I have, what are the 10 most important things to do? What are the 10 most important policies or procedures? And I always have top 10 lists. Some of them have more than 10, like this one, and I think I can get away. We still call it top 10 because in the college football Big Ten, do you know there are 19 teams now?
Right.
When I was a
right.
kid 50 years ago, there were 10 teams, but now there's 19 teams. So actually, I have 14 reasons that take me an hour to explain. So you can get a copy of, your listeners or viewers can get a copy of my top 10 things to do to grow exponentially. I call it top 10 things to grow exponentially. Now, I'll quickly say them without explanation. Let me see if I can find my list.
Yeah, I'd love to hear them.
Okay. I don't see my list quickly. Let me see if it's over here. So let me say the most important one, and that's perseverance. That God doesn't let anyone escape. Everyone has to go through adversity. And so it's the winners, they just always get up and keep going again.
How do you find the franchisees that fit your kind of business model? So when someone like me or someone else comes along, how do you vet that person?
I brought in 5,600 franchisees now. So, there may be someone else that's done it. I don't know anyone that's done that, but there probably are others. But 5,600 families and partners and people that have bought franchises. And if you add the fact that's 5,700 franchisees, some of them had partners, so it's like 8,000 people. So I've changed tens of thousands of people's life. They had 100,000 employees. So when I take someone through a franchise process, I'm almost always involved. And so the process is we get someone who's interested, for example, in Zoom and grooming. And then we assign someone to take them through the process. And it's basic. This isn't rocket science. I mean, the team that won the Super Bowl didn't have any fancy play. They just blocked better, tackled better, caught passes better. I mean, there's no, in a sense, there's no secret sauce. The secret sauce is doing the basics consistently, extraordinarily well. So, but we take people through this process. Number one, are you meant to be self-employed? Everyone, or not, 2/3 of people want to be self-employed. Half of them can't do it. They don't have the money, the wherewithal, the time, the drive, the get up and go.
There's the will and the way, as I call it. You got to have both will and you got to have way.
And you have to have risk-taking capability. And less than 25% of the people have the risk-taking ability to be all on their own. First of all, should you be self-employed? And remember, and then secondly, okay, if we agree that's yes, then the second thing is, what industry should you be in? And then, is pet grooming the right industry? Is tax preparation? Is accounting? Is construction? I mean, what is your industry? What is your calling? And what really appeals to you? Because my theory is, find something you love to do, work hard, and persevere. And then once you decide, okay, so you decided, yes, we agree with you, you should be self-employed. We agree you should be in pets and dog grooming. And now, should you do it yourself? Should you go to one of our competitors or should you join us? And then we take you through that process. And then once we agree that we're the best fit, then timing plays a huge part. 50% of deals fall out because of timing, because they get promoted at work, or their spouse gets transferred and they're moving to a whole new city, or they buy a new house and so they're too busy, or someone gets sick, one of the parents gets ill and they're going to go take care of their parent, or there's a death in the family. So it has to be the right timing. So, and then finally, there's a pass fail in franchising that is, Ken, it seems so simple. It should be hard for your viewers to believe this, but I brought in 5,600 franchisees. Guess how many have listened to me 100%?
Oh, probably nobody.
Nobody. And it's my job. It's my job to give you the best system in the planet. And if I do my job, your job is simply
Follow through.
the recipe.
Right.
Follow
Right.
the recipe. Now,
Right.
you would think, I've been doing it 56 years. Half of the people that join me have never been in the industry. So, for example, in tax, I brought in 5,000 just in taxes alone. Half the people had never done a tax return professionally. So if I say that on these 4 weeks of the year, instead of opening at 9 a.m., you open at 7 a.m. because of circumstance, why would you argue and not do it? And that's what we look for. The final thing is, are you really meant to be a franchisee? Because it's one thing to be self-employed and it's another to be a franchisee. And if you're not willing to follow the proven method, it's going to cost you time or money or both. We don't just guess and say, oh, we think you should try this. Everything we give you is tried and true. Everything we give you is tried and true. Just follow the basics and you will. And so I've created over 1,000 millionaires, and they listen 98 or 99% of the time. But Ken, I've had 1,000 people fail and they listen less than 90% of the time. So if you're not going to listen, don't waste your time and join me. I can't help you.
How do you identify the different markets where a certain franchise you feel will be more successful than others? Obviously, you're doing this all over the country, right? So if you take Florida, for example, how do you identify where what you have will fit before you ever get to the franchisee part?
Well, first of all, I've been doing this for 56 years, and it's the demographics you look for is different by industry, right? For example, simple example is we have 2 tax and accounting. One goes after low-end customers that make under 50,000, and the other goes after high-end customers that make over 50,000.
And how much do you work? How much time do you spend evaluating competition in a market if someone comes to you?
We already have that pre-populated, so we already have that information at our fingertips. So we've already done that. So, and in taxes, it's beautiful because the IRS, under the Freedom of Information Act, tells us how many tax returns each of our competitor is doing. And it's sort of like McDonald's and Burger King. McDonald's spends $40,000. They do a demographic study and they find a location. Have you ever seen a McDonald's fail?
No.
Exactly. And so they spend $40,000. They find a location. Do you know how much Burger King spends?
I have no clue.
0. They just get next door to McDonald's.
I was just going to say, across the street from McDonald's, that works for them.
Right. I mean, you're in Florida and you look around, how many Burger Kings are more than a half mile or a mile away from McDonald's, right? They go as close as they can. So that's what we do when we're competing with H&R Block. Whenever we want to be within a half mile radius of where that block is. And we know how many tax returns they do. So if we go to Orlando, Florida, we know there's about 50 H&R blocks, and we know the revenue of each one. So for example, just simplistically, and it's not exactly this clear, but if the biggest block in all of Orlando does 4,000 returns and the smallest one does 1,000 returns, who do you want to be next to? The one that does
the 4,000 guy.
Right, yeah. Exactly. And so we help you pick the best area. And then when it's a storefront, we come and pick the storefront for you. So, and we give you guidance on rent and length of lease and so forth. So we do everything for them.
And obviously use the same approach in the pet grooming or
Exactly.
whatever. Have you got anything beyond pet grooming or thinking about something or
Oh
can't
yeah.
talk about it? Or
In pets, we have three others. One is a storefront grooming, and secondly is Cooper Scoopers picking up poop. The third one is most exciting to me. We're just starting this month, and it's called Hike Doggy. And this mom and pop great lady in Denver has had this business for 10 years. And she's designed a bus where you upfit the bus, you take a van, big van, and you upfit it, and that can hold 12 dogs. And then you have a bus route, and you pick sort of like a school bus. You pick
okay.
up the dogs, and often the pet parents aren't even home, and you bring them out to the van, put them into their little area, and then you take them to a park. You run them for a couple hours, and then you clean them up. You have bathtubs, and you clean them up. You put them back in their area, and then you drop them at home. And it's as profitable as the grooming, because and the major reason it is we have to pay our groomers a lot of money. They're very specialized. I mean, they need years of training to be a great groomer to handle all types of dogs. Whereas someone that's walking a dog, that takes little skills. So you pay the groomers far more than you pay the dog walkers. So love that concept. And we already have, and we're just starting it this month. And in our database at Zoom and Grooming in 4 years, we've acquired 150,000 customers in 94 cities. Now, how many of those customers will want their dog hike once a week?
Yeah.
And most of them do it once a week. So it's 20, 30, 40%. So we just we're monetizing our database of the largest mobile grooming in the country. And we call that initiative Everything Pet.
What's the age group of your average franchisee? As you find that to be on the younger side, middle, people like us? Who's your franchisee?
That's changed over the last 56 years. When I first started in the early 70s at Block, the average franchisee was over 50 years old. Then by the time in the 90s, that changed to about 40 years old. And now in its low 30s is average age. So
Well, if you watch the news, and I happen to be watching the news this morning, and they were talking about the constant displacement of people's jobs because of AI. It's pretty scary out there if you're in your 20s or 30s where you're going to go with your life, because who knows what the penetration of AI will be, but it surely won't be walking a dog.
Well,
And
it's
it
certainly
won't be
not going to
grooming a
be
dog.
right. Exactly. We love to brag about that. We're AI. We're
Kind of
AI.
AI bulletproof. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not going to lose your job to AI.
Right.
In many industries, you can
Now, I
lose it
guess
at
AI
McDonald's or Burger King, but
I guess
not.
AI could do your tax return and probably will down the road. I guess there could be a
They
component.
actually they've never been able to encroach on pay preparation. It's still 60% of the people, and even Intuit that's totally online has had, now they hire tens of thousands of people. So you have an expert while you're doing your form. You have an expert on call that you can buzz in and talk to a human being.
And
So
is that expert in the U.S., do you think?
yes.
Or
Well, I know that the vast
because that's a
majority.
big problem too. That's a really
Right.
big problem with customer service. We all face it, right?
Right.
You dread calling the airline. You dread calling the big box store. You really dread calling anybody anymore because service. I come from a service background, and service is always seems to be more of an issue nowadays.
To my knowledge, Intuit, as the vast majority of their support people are in the United States.
So where do you see franchising go for the next couple of decades with AI and everything? Is there going to be more and more people looking to get out on their own?
Well, they're going to be forced to. They're going to be forced to look for a different occupation. And but as I said earlier, only a certain amount of people can be self-employed, which is in a way that's good, because if most of the people could be self-employed, it would be harder for me to find employees. And I don't do any work. I need people to do the work. So I need people that don't want to be self-employed. So I think that certainly small business is growing today, that over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, faster than it ever has been. So and that's great for a lot of reasons, for franchising, number one, and for our tax business, number two, because people that are self-employed, 95% of them have someone prepare their return, because it's
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
complicated.
And I went into business when I was 28 years old in manufacturing. So I've been doing this a while myself, about 43 years of self-employment, 20 years of manufacturing, and then 20 years, over 25 years in the insurance and risk management business. So you do, like you said, it's the real truth behind all of it is a lot of people want to be self-employed, but can they really be self-employed? Are they dedicated enough to be self-employed? And that's where I'm sure you have to weed them out, and you've got a process to do that as well. Do you have many of your franchises turn over? Do they have to sell them back to your company, or can they just sell it to the next person that wants to buy it?
We keep 90% each year, and that's probably too many. I'd probably rather only keep 85%. But of the new franchisees that come in, but yeah, they can put it up for sale, and generally, as a rule, they sell it back for their investments, or close to their investments. So they don't they don't lose much in the process. They just lost their time.
Yeah. What is your thoughts that you want to pass along to people? I know you covered a lot of it, but the maybe a little deeper thoughts about deciding if someone is looking at being self-employed. I guess you kind of covered the topics, but is there anything else behind the mirror that you feel people got to think about?
Yeah, think about, first of all, my major theory is simple. Find something you love to do, work hard, persevere. And so find something you love. The philosophy, thank God it's Friday, is foreign to me. If that's your life, you're living a sorry life. It should
Right,
be thank God it's Monday,
right.
because
I
every
agree
day,
100%. No,
fun for
no,
me. I don't need to
right.
wait till Friday to have Saturday, Sunday to have fun. So I live a life of fun. So
No,
that's my
that's
major.
the person. Any of us that have been self-employed for a lifetime know that that's how you have to be able to get up every day, because I always look forward to my businesses when I had them before I sold them. And if you're not going to do that, you're really just you really do need a job.
When we look for people and we question ourselves, is Ken meant to be self-employed? There's some obvious things. Number one is he's been self-employed before. Okay, then he can be self-employed. He's proven.
Right.
Number two, if he's never been self-employed, are his parents self-employed, or his siblings? So
Right.
does it run in the family? That's a good, if he grew up with a parent who was self-employed, he's seen the life. He's probably even maybe worked a few hours in that
Right.
business.
Right.
So he probably gets it. Third, if neither of those are true, now we're saying we're skating on thin ice. But then we look for things. What did they do as a youngster? I mean, did they have a paper route? Did they mow lawns? Did they sell lemonade? Did they
Right.
sell Christmas cards? Did they ever do anything like side hustles when they were growing up or in college? Did they ever do anything? If they haven't done any of that, the chances of them doing well at being self-employed are certainly far less than 50%.
Do- You mentioned the college or high school or growing up. What percentage of your franchisees are college graduates versus I'm not. People like myself, I'm a high school guy with a little bit of college, but never could keep that rolling down the road. But what do you find that's to be in your business?
Well, first, let me join your bandwagon and say that in my second tax season, H&R Block came to me. My manager had anxiety attacks. And back in 1971, they hadn't invented anxiety attacks yet. So they thought he had a heart attack. So they put him in the hospital, and they asked me if I would leave college and run those offices. So at 20 years old, I became a block manager, and never finished my college degree either.
Well, way to
So
go. And
having
you've
said
done
that,
quite well.
right, exactly. There's only a few thousand people that have built billion-dollar businesses, and there's only one guy that's built 2 of the top 100. So there's a lot of greats like Bill Gates and Steve
Sure.
Jobs and people like that had never had a college degree. But to answer your question, we don't keep a statistic on that. My gut is it's about 50%.
And how do you do trade shows where you have
We do.
your franchises? You do like national, I know there's national trade shows that are regionalized. And so you've probably been down to Florida and
Exactly.
everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So, for example, our tax, the IRS has 5 shows a year during the summer, and taxpayer, they'll get thousands of taxpayers coming in for training and getting their ongoing education credits, continuing education credits. And
Okay.
so we do a booth at those events. And so that's just one industry. At dog groomers, we do booths for them and so forth.
Well, it sounds like to me you got plenty to do. I don't know if you're going to crank anything else up. I guess the pet bus ride concept sounds like it's pretty interesting. I know where we live. We don't, but everybody else has a dog. So it's constant all day long. People walking their dogs and needing their dogs walked and needing their dogs watched. And I could see where that would be interesting business.
You're old enough certainly to remember this. And let me give you an example how the world of dogs has changed. And I call it the humanization of pets. But remember, Ken, in the 90s, there used to be joke after joke about husbands being put in the doghouse, right? And
Right.
because back in the 90s, 90% of dogs lived outside, right?
Right.
But
Right.
in the 2025, 90% of dogs live inside.
That's
So,
true.
I mean, that's just a simple example of how a pet's just flourishing.
That's really interesting. Well, I sure appreciate you being on with us today. And I know people can find you, get a hold of you if you want to give me anything quick that I can post within the show as far as finding out where to find your companies.
If your viewers go to loyaltybrands.com, they can sign up for a free copy of my book, I Compete. So
Okay, good,
they can
good.
get it. They can just get that at loyaltybrands.com.
Thanks for your time today, John. We appreciate you being on the show. So long for now. And remember, your business is the next business I want to know more about. Thanks for listening to the Biz-Network, your everything about business podcast. Please subscribe so you don't miss anything and tell your friends about it also. I'm your host, Ken Nichols. See you again soon and have a great week. Bye-bye.